Fair.
Hey, we are live! Welcome back to the show with no name, featuring Herms and my buddy Jesse. You can find me on Twitter at HermsNFL, and you can find Jesse at, well, he can tell you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm Jesse. Whenever I do work for the lateral stuff, super fun. You can find me at BGF Sports on Twitter. Big Games Fantasy Sports is a thing I do also. It's a good ass time. We have fun there. I'm always looking for guests too, so if anyone wants to hit me up, I'm booking openings.
That's literally how we met and eventually teamed up and joined forces. So
True.
like I can personally vouch for the Bacon Games fantasy sports stuff. Honestly, like top notch content. Please check it out. I mean, we're all about Jesse's contributions to the lateral, but at the same time, like we got the what is it? What's that word? Simpatico? Is that the word? The
Sure.
I don't know. Either way, uh, yeah, definitely do that thing. Man, dude, I don't know about you. I lost probably like a good hour at work just because of like the shitstorm of like the trades in the NFL draft and teams moving up and down and just like league chats and stuff and just group texts and all this. It's like I don't know. I figure we have a show sheet in place. We have a bunch of stuff we want to talk about, including our NFL free agency winners and losers for fantasy. But it felt appropriate off the top to just we've got to fucking talk about it. So just I'm gonna hand it over to you, buddy. Just tell the public in case somehow they haven't heard this massive amounts of news.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, I have a buddy or a pretty close buddy who's an Eagles fan, so this was pretty interesting for us to talk about. But yeah, so two big trades happened, right? I'm just reading off of like CBS from what they had here. So we had Miami sending the number 3 pick to San Francisco for the number 12 pick and a 2022 first round pick and a 2022 third round pick and then a 2023 first round pick. And then the 49ers traded the 12th overall pick, I mean, all that stuff. Yeah, they traded that to Miami for the third overall pick. So there was that trade, and then there was the Eagles trade, and the Eagles traded the sixth overall pick and the fifth overall pick or fifth round pick, not fifth overall, fifth round pick in this draft to Miami for the 12th and a fourth round pick, and then a 2022 first round pick. I think that's the entire details. Yeah, it seemed to be the entire details. Yeah, so that's what happened. It was
Yeah, so
yeah.
oh yeah, I mean just like to distill it down for the really putting in the highlights here. Basically, the Niners moved from 12 to 3, swapping with Miami, and then Miami was like, you know what, this feels a little too far down. Why don't we call up Philadelphia and move back up just a little bit to 6? So yeah, that's the plainest way to explain it. But thank you for reading off all the
Fair,
because in hey,
fair.
those later round picks, just because they're not first round picks doesn't mean that they don't have value. So they are always important to keep in mind.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, definitely. Also to be fair, again, it's if anything past like a fifth round pick is kind of useless, but yeah, I mean, it's still a draft
Sure,
pick,
yeah,
still definitely a draft pick. Yeah, so
for sure.
yeah, so I guess we want to hit the San Fran first. Just real quick reactions.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I would really prefer to see Trey Lance in that offense over Justin Fields out of
Mm.
Ohio State. Although I think the higher likelihood is that San Francisco uses this pick to draft Justin Fields to play quarterback. I mean, that's probably what they're going to do with it. I can't imagine they're going to move all the way up to number 3 to do anything besides take a quarterback. So I mean, yeah, that's about and oh, geez, for fantasy purposes, I mean, it would be very interesting because I know for as much as our buddy McLateral, shout out Malcolm if you're out there, big fan of Jimmy Garoppolo, big fan of his 49ers and all that, but I think it's fairly evident that they would benefit from an upgrade at that position, and I think they're about to get it. So thrilling, honestly, all the way
Mhm.
around. For redraft, dynasty, that's a whole other conversation. That's not really what we do, but still, I mean, oh, yo, dude, I'm stoked. So
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
yeah. I mean, for the 49ers trading up to the 3, it seems like you said, it's I can't imagine them not taking a quarterback at that point. Right. I don't know if they necessarily need one. And it seems like Fields will be the guy, but yeah, I mean they're doing what they wanted to, and I'm never gonna fault a team for trading up for a quarterback they really like. I will fault teams for taking guys they like at other positions, but for quarterback, it's kind of hard for me to say something negative when a team knows what they want, knows the kind of guy they want, knows the offense they run. If they like a guy in that position, they'll go ahead and trade for it. I think the real losers in this part of this deal for at least San Fran is Carolina, who I think people assumed would take a quarterback, and they might have to trade up to like 5 or 6 or something like that to even consider taking the fourth best quarterback off the board, possibly. So I think they're like the real loser at this part of the move up, and San Fran's just taking a quarterback, probably going to be Fields. I did finish my film on Fields, and I'm definitely not as high on him as I am for Zach and for Trevor. So, kind of a downgrade going to 3, but I mean, take a quarterback when you can get it. I think that's fine.
100%. I don't think I could have put it any better myself. And, it's very fair to point out the ramifications that it has for Carolina. And also, low key, before we move on to the Dolphins, does this or does this not solidify that the Jets will be taking presumably BYU quarterback Zach Wilson at 2?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely solidifies them taking a quarterback. I absolutely agree. I think it should be Wilson, and I think that's most where people are going. But I mean, anything can happen, right? I think there's like a 95% chance they take Wilson, a 5% chance they take Fields. But I mean, maybe as we get closer, that changes. Yeah, I think Wilson is the pretty obvious choice for me personally. And I think the Jets will go that way. But I mean, I mean, maybe we're still not sure that they even take a quarterback, but I think it's likely they will.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, with everything that we've heard about, the report from Adam Schefter that he tweeted out about how the Niners have been working for months at this point to try and move up in the first round, and they got as high as 3 and never even had conversations with the Jets because, I mean, at least to me, reading the context clues, between the lines,
Mhm.
kind of seems like they weren't really moving that pick. So that's its own thing,
So.
of course.
Mhm.
But, oh, yes, keep going.
Yeah, sorry. So I did see earlier, Rappaport tweeted out, rephrasing an earlier tweet for clarity. Earlier on in the draft prospect, the Eagles felt Zach Wilson was a strong pro. Oh, I'm sorry, this is about the Eagles. Okay. So the Eagles want to move back. Yeah, sorry. I thought we were
I
talking about. That's my bad. That's it. It's for a little later. My bad. Yeah. Okay. No, I agree
Well,
with what you
hey,
said then.
you
100%.
know what? Screw it. We'll do the Dolphins last. Let's keep it on the
Oh, shit.
Eagles.
Yeah.
In terms
Okay.
of,
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
for me, I think this pretty much rules out any possibility they had of getting Jamar Chase. Sorry, Eagles fans. I know that a lot of you really wanted
Mhm.
Jamar Chase out of LSU to
Mhm.
help bolster that offense, but probably not going to happen at this point.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I think the guy they really want. Sorry, I think the guy they really want is Waddle, honestly, and I think he's a guy who can follow them at 12. Um, I think that might be their real intention. That's what I had mocked for every one of the mocks I've done so far is them taking Waddle, and I think he'll be the third wide receiver off the board if they're smart. But I mean, last year we saw Ruggs go first wide receiver off the board, so maybe that won't happen. But yeah, I sorry for interrupting you, but I feel like Waddle is the guy they wanted, and they'll probably have opportunity to get him there.
yeah, no, because I mean, like what I was going to say was it's either got to be somebody like that or they just pivot away from offense entirely, and it's not even a conversation for us as fantasy football players to have. So
Mhm.
those are the two outcomes in my mind.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. This part of it's not as exciting as it is for the pick that was originally acquired in exchange for Laramie Tunsil from the Houston Texans. Look at how that the high flying circus act that turned out to be.
Mhm.
Miami moving down from 3 to 12 and now eventually settling at number 6.
Yeah.
I would like to see them take a Kyle Pitts, perhaps. Somebody like that. Maybe even the aforementioned Jamar Chase to, give to another guy to throw to. Why not? Because, I mean, think
Mhm.
about the receiving core. Now with Devontae Parker, the recently acquired Will Fuller, and any combination of Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts and Mike Gesicki, low key. Don't forget
Love Gasecki.
everybody out there. I mean,
Mhm.
especially over the back half of the year in 2020, like, whoo, he came on strong. So just I'm willing this into existence. Are you willing to come on with me through this journey, or do you have other ideas in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think 6 is a great spot to be in this draft if you don't need a quarterback. There will be either Penny or Pitts or Jamar or Devonta Smith. Anyone there, I think, is pretty appropriate so far in my draft analysis. So I think anywhere picking in like the top 10, maybe even like top 9, top 8, you're going to get a really solid talent if you're not taking a quarterback. So being in that spot, I think, is really smart. I'm really impressed with Miami trading up. trading back first, which I think was fine. Obviously, I think that's what most people expected them to do. But then trading back into the top 10, top 8, I think was a stroke of genius. It was really good. I know they gave up a first round pick, but I mean, did they really? They also, to be Miami did a great job with this. No shade of Miami; they've done a great job managing what they've done so far. But I mean, they got pretty lucky that they ended up with the third overall pick. To be fair,
Yeah.
which is great, and it just goes to show you that um, if you like potheads, or if you accepting potheads, you will do really well in the NFL. So, you know, just Laramie Tunsil fucking that video, man, that lowered his draft stock to like 15 was
Yeah.
insane. And I have no issues with concerns off the field unless they're like domestic issues or anything like that, assault or anything like that. Obviously, it's a very different scenario. But any kind of like stuff off the field that they're like, oh, I don't want to play football that much. He doesn't seem as focused, or oh, he likes to fucking hit a, I don't know, it wasn't a grab ball, it was a face mat. I don't remember what the fuck it was. Um, but like, dude, it just I don't understand why you ever take that in consideration. It doesn't make any sense to me. And they did it, and they ended up with like six draft picks out of it, six first round picks out of it. So feels pretty good, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, just finessing the hell out of that shit. Just like bravo, Miami. I mean, that
Playing Madden pretty much. We're all playing Scrabble, and they're playing Madden.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, they're doing some 40 chess shit that like we weren't even fucking thinking about. Like, so good for them. But
True.
all right, that feels like a good way to wrap up that impromptu opening segment. Now into the part that was originally supposed to be what we were going to start with. So last week in our last episode, we went over just recapping a bunch of signings to date and how we feel about all that, but we didn't quite get to all of them. So before we get into winners and losers to round out the show, that's what this was billed as, whatever. We have a list of the guys that you wanted to go over. Introduce that shit, give the contract details, give your vibes. I'll give myself a little bit of time to respond, do whatever, and we'll just, knock out this list. So,
Yeah.
what do you say? We get this going.
Yeah, absolutely. First one I had up on the list is Emmanuel Sanders signing a 6 year or six God 6 year $6 million deal for 1 year at the Bills. I don't think as good as John Brown was last year in that offense, but I like Emmanuel Sanders a lot. I think he's been kind of getting a bad rap over the past 2 years. To be honest, he's going to a team with a better quarterback than New Orleans has right now, so I think this is a better situation for him for sure. Uh, I'm just happy for him. I think it's a great spot. They were a playoff team last year. I think they might be a playoff team next year, but we'll see. That division is going to be really tough to play in. We'll see. We'll see how well they do. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty good spot. It's a pretty easy deal. Signed. There were a lot of mercenaries to sign in the offseason for 1 year deals, and I think Emmanuel Sanders is a great 1 year contract. Bills made a smart move. I think bringing back John Brown I would have liked more, but he was kind of phased out of the offense a little bit last year. Um, yeah, I was never really a big fan of Gabriel Davis. I might change that during the
Oh,
offseason, but
oh,
yeah, I
oh,
mean,
oh.
well, we'll see how his stock is because I don't think Cole Beasley is going anywhere, and obviously Stephon Diggs isn't going anywhere. So feels like he might be the odd man out there, but I'm not sure.
That was my big takeaway from the signing, as it pertains to the aforementioned Gabriel Davis. This is somebody that at times came on and performed very well, and as a rookie, receiver, rookie receivers don't just pop off all the time, and we've been spoiled over the last couple of years in that
Mhm.
area, but historically speaking, looking at the data, it takes a while for most rookies to, and then again, he didn't exactly fully break out either. Whatever, not the point. Point is, my primary concern with Manny Sanders coming in is the fact that it's like, oh, jeez, well, I was all signed up. I got my ticket to be on the hype train for Gabriel Davis. What am I gonna do? Oh shit, is the train being delayed? Are we? I packed all these bags. I took off work. What am I doing? So, like, I'm a little concerned because I was fully prepared to rank Gabriel Davis as a highly, highly thought of like sleeper wide receiver 3 candidate that could potentially, explode and do some more stuff. But Emmanuel Sanders, say what you will, at this point, even after everything his body has been through with injury,
Mhm.
homie could still ball.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where I get. Well, first of all, what do you think of Emmanuel Sanders for redraft purposes, and also more directly, because we know what the community really wants to know. How does this affect Gabriel Davis, please? Oh.
Yeah, for I mean redraft, I think he's probably just a late round flyer at this point because, like you said, I mean him and Gabe Davis, I feel, or I guess like we talked about, they feel like they are, or I feel like they are both competing for the last, not the last spot, but in the three wide receiver set, they're competing for the third, wide receiver spot because I think, like we talked about, those two guys have positions locked up, that being Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs. So I like Emmanuel Sanders personally. I think he's a great receiver. He's a really good route runner. Has fine hands. I'm pretty happy to have him on any team. I think he's got to be a flyer that you take late and see what happens. Because as much as people love Josh Allen, I am not the biggest fan in the world. Not to say he's a bad quarterback, but we'll see how he does next year. With we'll see how he does. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm not like super bullish on him, but I think it's a fine signing for the team.
I feel you there, buddy. Although I will say, the next guy we have on our list, this one really piques my interest. So I just wanted to
Mhm.
put it out there for the listeners and for the viewers. Like, this is one where because this is still a new show, I haven't really laid out any hot takes or perspectives yet, and I'm not really a fan of doing that anyway. Because I'm not that because there is a difference between a hot take and a stupid take. Shout out the homie Justin for tweeting that out earlier. Um, but this one I feel could be really interesting, so I just wanted to tease that a little bit before you get into introducing this player and this deal.
Yeah, well, if you got a hot take, why don't you hit me up first, man?
Okay, so Gerald Everett's going to Seattle. It's just a 1 year deal, 6 million. It's not a tremendous amount of money, but for a tight end, I mean, like that's a pretty sizable investment. We've seen over time, like I didn't have enough time to pull up the numbers for this, so like my
Oh, the
take is
deal?
going, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's 1 year, 6 million. That's what I pulled up real quick
yeah. I
from.
just, I just wanted to make sure that I had that part of it right. But either way,
Okay.
like, oh man, like we've seen at times in the past, while it has never been like one dude in Seattle, Russ does like to throw to the tight end. Russ being quarterback Russell Wilson, he does like throwing to the tight end. It hasn't, because like I said, it hasn't always been the same dude. Because especially, at the time they had acquired former Saints great Jimmy Graham. He wasn't quite himself at
One
the
of the
end
worst
there, and
trades in history of football. I'm sorry, they traded away what's
yeah,
the name, the center. One of the worst trades in.
yeah,
I forget his name. Terrible trade. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, not great, Bob. But yeah, I mean, they've seen they the Seahawks tight end, whoever it is, they have seen a good amount of targets, and I have it pulled up now through Football Guys. Last year, targets to the tight end 108, the year before 102, 72 the year before that, then 132 in 2017. I mean, like, yeah, but it's always been like a handful of like two or three dudes piecemealing that together. I think Gerald Everett has shown enough flashes at times throughout his career. And I know it doesn't really matter that much now, but still, second round draft capital coming out of South Alabama. That's not nothing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think I will probably have him projected somewhere around like tight end 15, 16, something like that. But like, if you're going to wait on tight end and you're not going to pick up somebody like Darren Waller or a Travis Kelsey, Mark Andrews, what have you,
Mhm.
Gerald Everett's one of those dudes that I really think has a decent chance of doing fairly well. I would be interested in him as it stands right now without knowing the landing spots of incoming rookies like Kyle Pitts, although it does take time for rookie tight ends to pop off. But if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be him.
Yeah.
Yeah, without knowing a lot of that stuff now, as it stands on March 26th, 2021, I'm kind of in on the idea of Gerald Everett. I don't know. I'm just saying. Like, there's enough evidence to support a tiny level of optimism. Am I nuts?
No, I don't think so. And I mean, we've seen him return fantasy value even in with two tight ends there, right? In
Yeah.
LA. So I think it's a perfectly reasonable thing. Tight end's always a shit show in the NFL for fantasy. It's always terrible. So anytime you can take a flyer or anytime you take like a spicy hit on a guy, I think it's totally fine because God, we always come into the season with a lot of high hopes for a lot of tight ends, and it's like there are 10 usable tight ends in the league like every week. So anytime you want to take a chance on a guy like this, I think it's smart. And like you were saying, the Seahawks, I feel like have been trying to acquire a good tight end for like 5, 6 years, right? So finally getting one for us, who I think is actually pretty valuable, and Everett, I think, is really smart and is definitely worth taking a chance on. I don't know if you said is he in your top 10 for tight ends, or what are you thinking?
Top 15, top
Yeah,
16, kind of
yeah,
somewhere in there. Like
hmm
he'll be on the outside looking in
hmm
like the higher end tight end too. But if we came back at this time next year and we discovered that Everett was able to soak up a 15% of the target share and just snuck in there in the top 12, I wouldn't be stunned. I don't. I
hmm
mean, I'm
yeah,
not. I'm not even remotely thinking that like, oh, this is the guy that could break out and be top five. Like, fuck no, that's not definitely not the take from Herms. But like, I think he could be somebody that sneaks in there, like kind of like slightly better version of what we saw from Eric Ebron last year. You know what I mean? Like that
hmm
type of shit. A little
yeah,
more consistent, slightly better hands, maybe. Although the bar for that's pretty low to the point where it's almost on the floor. But yeah, I'm
true.
really I'm into it. I'm into it. This is a dude as it stands right now, and honestly, unless something crazy changes, I don't see myself being talked out of it. I think Gerald Everett's going to be a guy that I target at the end of drafts.
hmm
So there it is. And hey,
Yeah,
you said I'm not nuts, so this is good.
yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I like it a lot. So I think that's all I have to say about Everett. Let's move on to Higgins. Rashad Higgins being resigned by the Browns. It was like $2.3 million. This might not be as fantasy relevant as the rest of these, to be honest, but I liked a lot from what he showed, last year, especially with Odell Beckham going down. I am a big fan of Donovan Peoples-Jones, but I still think Higgins is a
Yeah.
good player. It sucks that Baker hasn't really panned out to being a good fantasy quarterback yet. Which I don't know. Maybe I'll correct that coming on. I think we have really high expectations for rookie quarterbacks and like second or third year quarterbacks. So I mean, going to his fourth year, I believe. Yeah,
I believe so. Yes.
2017 draft. Yeah, 20. Yeah, okay. So coming into his fourth year, I mean, maybe he starts to ball out a little bit more, which would be hella fun. And I think Higgins is a great third option on that team. And maybe if Odell or Jarvis get hurt, he could be the second option and still be very good. So I'm big into him. Again, you're not gonna have to spend a lot of draft capital on these guys that we're gonna talk about. You have to spend a lot of draft capital on him, and I'm a big fan of really what he can do and what he's shown in the limited work. But if he gets the chance, I think he's a very relevant receiver in redraft leagues and even dynasty. A late flyer. I think if he can get on a better spot, maybe after this year, maybe he'll be great
Oh,
in dynasty.
100%. 100%, my dude. And I will say the interesting sort of elephant in the room is the whole idea that perhaps Cleveland moves on from Odell Beckham at some
Mm-hmm.
point. Because if that were, I mean, that's been rumored for a while. There's been some traction here and there talking about it. Nothing concrete, but the whispers have grown louder and louder over time to the point where, it's starting to become, noticeable. I don't know. There could be opportunity for either him
Mm-hmm.
or Donovan, the Peoples Jones, friend of the lateral, uh, to maybe
Ooh.
pop off and do some shit. And, like you were saying before about Baker Mayfield, not super putting it together and being totally super fantasy relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I have this pulled up just as an arbitrary benchmark because I don't remember exactly when it is that he popped off at the end of last year. But here's something to keep in mind: week 12 through 17. If you play week 17, please don't play week
Yeah, don't
17 in your
don't do
league.
that. You're
Um,
objectively wrong if you do. Just
yes,
100%. So.
Baker Mayfield QB 8 in that span. I'm going to pull up his game log so I can, help do a little. I should probably do these things ahead of time. This is very professional. But honestly, man, yeah, okay. So actually, wow, I picked the arbitrary benchmark right on the nose. So, yeah, I mean, from that point, the week after that was that game against Tennessee where he was just like obscenely efficient and had like the 334 for 4 touchdowns and no turnovers. Remember that? Remember
Yep.
that? Yeah.
That was
All right.
Dallas,
So,
right? Was that Dallas?
no, that was against the Titans.
Oh, sorry, Titans.
But
Sorry, my bad. Yeah.
yeah, no, you're good. But either
I
way,
think he
like
played. Yeah. Mhm.
he was when OBJ was removed from the equation, and it seemed, at least to me, and I'm sure to many others as well, Baker didn't feel this necessity to feed it to him to keep his spirits up, and he was able to just like sit back, go through stuff, read it through, hi did Leo there, what it do,
Mhm.
and
Dude,
just
mhm,
like I don't know, it seemed to make a difference. I think it did.
mhm.
So as far as
I want to say about Baker real quick. Just
go for it.
Baker is the king of being awesome at play action. That guy, anytime he rolls on the play action, automatically completes a pass. He is so good in play action, it's absolutely ridiculous. And that probably is owed to his ridiculously good running game. But man, anytime that guy's in play action, he hits dudes perfectly. He does such a great job reading half the field, objectively or whatever. But that's totally fine. He is great at that stuff, and if he gets better at the rest of that, he's going to be a very good quarterback because they use the play action to their advantage a lot. They've got great running backs. Why wouldn't they use them like that? Just wanted to mention that about Baker. If you watch any Browns film, you watch a Browns game, you'll see it. Anytime he's on the play action, always completes a pass, always for a good amount of yardage. Just great on the. Sorry, I just want to say that real quick. Got to mention that for him.
And that is incredibly important because a lot of passing game success does come off play action in this league. I mean, like that, and there is a high correlation, at least from limited amount of research that I've done. So please, like, if you want to quote me on it, fuck it, whatever. And if you come back and tell me that
Do
I'm
it.
wrong, then I'll admit
Cone
that
it.
I'm wrong. But like QB fantasy production tied to play action passes or whatever, just like that shit, especially offenses that throw the play action a little bit. I mean, look at somebody like Ryan Tannehill and the amount of times that the Tennessee. Yeah, speaking of, hey, Tennessee, whoa, accidental segue. Yeah, the amount of success that he was able to have off play action, like Matt Ryan, another dude down with the Falcons, another king of that shit. Like it really, it serves people well. It does, and if I guess putting a bow on my point about all of that shit would just be like, okay, Odell Beckham leaves. Boom. Well, that would, because Jarvis Landry's still around, the name we haven't spoken. He still exists.
Mhm,
The opportunity that would be presented for somebody like a Rashard Higgins, somebody like Donovan, the Peoples Jones,
mhm,
it's intriguing. And honestly,
mhm,
fuck it. Even if Odell doesn't move on, I mean, like,
mhm,
come on. I mean, there's got to be, you know, Landry doing all the shit in the slot and whatnot.
mhm.
There has to be another dude wide out. you
Yeah.
know, so hey, man, I'm here for it. He showed flashes. He being Higgins, he showed flashes at
Mhm.
times. I mean, I picked him
Yeah.
up and streamed him a little bit. Like,
Mhm. He's
I was
always been
happy
like
with him.
that. Yeah, I feel like it's coming on. I feel like it's gonna happen eventually, but I might be saying that for 2 or more years and then it never happens. But these are late round flyers we're talking about. And I think they're important to just think about going forward. Good re-signing. He's at least with a squad that, or at least with a team that he knows. I think a team that actually really likes him. So glad they kept him around. All right, next one I've got up is Jared Cook to the Chargers. Um, it
Oh,
feels like what Parnham season was ruined by this, right? Or whatever that dumb
oh,
stuff
that
was.
was such a fun week. Donald Parham. Oh, it was great.
Mhm.
R.I.P. Former
Yeah.
XFL great.
Yeah, I was
Just
gonna say good story. Very nice story. He had some fun touchdowns. But Jared Cook is more of a real tight end in my opinion. So I just feel I think Parnham can be used in other places. I mean, they can use two tight end sets, but he was a touchdown dependent tight end more than anyone else in the league. I feel like, which is fine. So I think it's better for a guy like Herbert to have an established. I think he's like 34 years old, but whatever. Jared Cook on the team. He might not even play the whole year. So maybe there still be some room for some Parnham season. But yeah, I thought this was a relevant signing. They lost Hunter Henry, so they got to replace him with someone. They brought in Cook for a season. We'll see how that goes. I'm not the biggest Justin Herbert fan, but they have good offensive weapons, and I think Jared Cook can be a relevant offensive weapon there. And like we mentioned before with tight ends, and we'll mention I think one more in this segment. There were like 10 good ones last year. Why not take a flyer on someone like Jared Cook, who's shown it in the past?
exactly, because I remember when he first had that really solid breakout season. I want to say it was with the then Oakland Raiders. It was like, oh, well, he sucked for all that time with Aaron Rodgers, so he'll never do well again. And even though, like, it never reached that astronomical high ever again, ever since then, I mean, Cook has been one of those, like, steady Eddie, like, you're not going to be thrilled, but you're not going to complain if
Mm-hmm.
Jared Cook's your tight end in
Yeah.
fantasy, because he's a
Mm-hmm.
pro. He just finds a way to get it done. He always consistently finishes being all right. And
Yeah.
at the position of tight end, you'll settle for all right. So I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
his age and all that, sure, concern, whatever. But we saw how much Herbert liked throwing to Hunter Henry. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
well,
Yeah.
that's also. It's also keep in mind that Anthony Lynn now moved on in Detroit. You know who came over? Who will be coaching that offense for the Chargers? If I remember correctly, that's Joe Lombardi, and he came from where? New Orleans. Hey, pew, 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 pew. Player connection, coach connection. Pew, 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 pew. So yeah, just putting that out there. That's kind of important to consider. So, friendship, frenzies. So like,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cook, like you said, I mean, he was always a steady guy for a while. He kind of like broke out towards the end of his career when he was like 30, 31, 32, 33 with Oakland and New Orleans, like you'd mentioned. I mean, this guy caught 7 touchdowns last year. I don't know how many tight ends did that last year. So, I mean, it's a real thing. I mean, if he can stay healthy, which it looks like he has been for the past few years, 16 games, 14, 15, that's pretty relevant, I think. And like I said, he's going to be 34, but 33 last year, he was fine. He got 60 targets, 65 the year before. This is a very fine tight end on a what people think are going to be a good offense. We'll see if they are next year, but if you believe that Herbert's going to be good next year, if you believe this offense will be good this year, if you believe that team's going to be good next year, there's no reason not to take Jared Cook as even I don't know, like he'll probably be like tight end like 14 maybe for me, something like that.
I dig it.
Probably not top 12. Maybe actually top 12. We'll see. But I'm also not a big believer in Herbert. But
I
anyway,
see
is
the
there
case
anything else?
for
Yeah, sorry.
and against, honestly. Like
Yeah.
for and against, I see it. He's
Hmm.
right. He's on the fence there between tight end one and tight end two. So I mean, I dig it. Oh, to
Hmm.
be clear, being a tight end one and a tight end two. Don't want
Hmm.
that to go.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, don't come at me,
yeah.
Twitter. Don't do it. I swear to God. But yeah, so that's one tight end, and then there's a less enthusiastic tight end that is. But hey,
Yeah,
could be relevant. So
I yeah. I mean, I have Dan Arnold as the next guy. 2 years, 6 million with the Panthers. I was all in on Ian Thomas last year, and that was a total dud. So not very fun. But I I'm just waiting for that tight end position to be relevant in Carolina, and I think Dan Arnold, he hasn't been very good in Arizona. Whenever I don't think they used him appropriately there. I love Rule, and I love him as a coach. He's probably my favorite coach in the NFL right now. He's going to turn that team around. Mark my words, they're going to be 8-8 this year, and they're going to be a playoff relevant team for the next like 5 years, as long as he's the coach there. He's a master. He really is. And I think what they did in the offseason was fine. Didn't love all of it, but I think the defense is going to be set to be very good in like 2 years, maybe even this year they'll be even better. And the offense, I think, will get better if they get a relevant quarterback, which they might at 8. We'll see. I actually kind of really like Kyle Trask, and I don't know if he'll go in the first round, but we'll see. Maybe even Mac Jones. I don't know. I'm not as
Mac
sold on the North Dakota
Jones.
State. Yeah, I'm not as sold as the North Dakota State guys. Some people are, and I'm not sure if Rule will take him. But anyway, Arnold. There's going to be a tight end they're going to want to throw to. They lost Curtis Samuel, right? I don't know who they're really replacing him, but there will be some targets there. I think the tight end position can be relevant in a Rule offense, and I think Arnold's a fine guy to maybe take a flyer on again. He's not going to be in my top 20, but he might be like 22, and I think that's a great place to get a tight end who you think could break out in a place, like we've said 15 times so far in this little show, that there are like 10 relevant ones every year.
Yeah, and the I really would like that to work out because 6'6", 220-pound dude, undrafted out of Wisconsin Platteville, just like a big,
Sounds like a football dude.
exactly, just like a big, strong, small school dude coming in. Like, I mean, who doesn't want something like that to work out? And if I remember correctly, he was brought in unsigned with the Saints, kind of fizzled out there, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually found his way in Arizona. And to your point, I mean, he came on like a little bit. Like at the end of 2019, I think there were a couple games where he showed flashes, and it was like that's when he came onto my radar. I was like, huh,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what's going on here. And then
Mm-hmm.
he only had like 2 games last season that were worth a damn. But I remember, anecdotally speaking, just having watched those games, I'm like, that dude looks like a professional tight end. So, I mean, I don't know. Matt Rule likes these big dudes that can just do a bunch of different stuff, kind of like versatile, whatever, blah, blah. Like, could that
Mm-hmm.
be Dan Arnold? I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. Like,
I
I'm
think so.
not willing to
Mm-hmm.
commit to a take, but
Yeah, but you won't have to.
I
Is the best part, you know. You don't have to in
exactly.
fantasy drafts. You don't have to commit that hard to him. He's going to be like one of your last picks.
And that's the beauty of it. You don't have
Yeah.
to. You can be non-committal, and you know,
Mhm.
as a man,
I love it.
stereotypically speaking, of course,
Uh,
that's a wonderful thing.
oh
Wow,
no.
look at me doing problematic jokes with Herms. But seriously,
Maybe that'll be the
yeah.
show name, the Problematic Show, with both of us. No, just
Oh yes,
kidding.
of course, yeah. No, yeah, coming soon to Spotify. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where my interest is piqued. I would like
Mhm.
to see how camp goes. I'd like to
Sure.
see if another receiver comes in. But if,
Hmm.
if they
Yeah.
don't bring any more cooks into the kitchen, then,
Hmm.
I mean, hey, he might get a pretty big plate. Maybe not like a huge plate, but hey, yeah, I'm sticking with this metaphor. So, he could eat. We'll see. Like,
Hmm.
I'm here
Yeah.
for it. I'm here for the possibility.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about before, like we expect these guys to break out so early in their career, but we know tight ends takes longer than normal for the NFL. And I mean, this guy, really only started, last year. He's 25 years old, third year in the league. Let's wait a little bit before we completely write off these guys. And he's going to a new team that needs a tight end that I assume will use a tight end pretty effectively because I like Rule. I think he's very relevant to take, but again, no draft capital spent. Cut this guy if he sucks. Whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right, next one we've got is James White to the Pats. This was kind of sad for me. I was a little upset because they have, like you mentioned with the Cooks, there are too many in this kitchen for me to like, even though they have very distinct roles. James White has a very distinct role in that offense. He's always had that role, but yeah, I think this kind of sucks for fantasy because I still like Sony Michel and I like Najee Harris too. Najee Harris, right? That's his name. I know it's
Damien.
Harris, right? Damian Harris. Sorry, shoot, Najee Harris is the running back Bama, right?
Both Alabama running backs,
Yeah,
though,
yeah,
so
yeah.
you
Right,
did
right, right.
you at
True.
least had
I
that going
I
for you.
knew
So.
that. It's the Trulies, man. I'm such a lightweight. I've had like two of these. Kill me.
Hey man,
Um,
be what it be. I got a local New England IPA that I'm rocking, so we're killing
ooh,
it out here in these drunken
oh,
streets.
I
What's
might
up?
have to cut the pod short. I can't hang out with IPA drinkers. They are terrible people. So oof, oof. No, I'm just fucking you.
I'm more of a Hefeweizen guy. To be fair, that's
What
more.
is that?
Hefties and Hefeweizen. It's just more of like it's a lighter kind of. We could discuss this at a
Oh
different
yeah,
time.
okay,
If,
yeah,
if
whatever,
you're if
whatever.
you're in,
Fine.
if you're into German brews, that's definitely a good style.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I like thick beers, but yeah, totally fair. Yeah, the James White signing kind of sucks. That's how I feel about this. I mean, it's good for the Patriots, make that offense more of what Bill Belichick's wanted to do for every single year he's been a coach. Whatever. They don't have a quarterback, so I don't know how relevant they're going to be, but yeah, it was a fine signing.
my only counterpoint to that would be the fact that whether or not we agree with some of the moves, and this is something, it's a little foreshadowing into what's going to come up in winners and losers. Um, you know, setting the wide receiver market with bringing in such illustrious names as Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne to play receiver, and then signing Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith to play tight end, trying to relive the Gronk Hernandez days. I don't know. It's going to be wonky. I have no idea how the passing offense is going to work out, but here's the thing as it
Mhm.
pertains to James White. They've expressed clearly and financially speaking a desire to invest in the passing game ramping up, which by default benefits somebody like a James White as a receiving back. So, while it may not be something that makes me feel that much better about him, there are enough context clues that indicate, hey, maybe they're going to try and throw a little more and actually do so successfully. And if they can do that, that helps somebody like James White. The only thing I wanted to throw out there was that. It felt like it was important to say, but ultimately, I agree with you, especially as somebody who also really likes Damian Harris.
Mhm.
We'll get into more of the New England stuff later on, like I said, but that's just all I had to say about James
Yeah,
White specifically. So there's that. Herms has said his piece. So ha ha.
yeah. I don't know too much to say about James White. To be fair, I just think it's kind of unfortunate for fantasy, but I mean, the Pats bringing in
Totally,
guys that
yeah.
I like is totally fine. Next one up, the second to last one is T.Y. Hilton coming back to the Colts. Uh, I think Ty actually came on really well in the second half of the season, or even like since like week 6 on. He definitely started off slow. I think he was hampered by injury, if I remember correctly. He might have been
Yep.
injured for a little bit of that time too. But he actually had a pretty strong season coming on. At the end of the season, he was pretty good. I don't know if the stats reflect that, but watching on film from what I remember and reading my old tweets that I made because I watched all the games and tweeted about him, he was a pretty good guy, and I think he had that name value, but then he sunk, and then the fact that he wasn't very good and he still had that name recognition sunk him even lower, if you can believe that, if that makes sense. So I think that'll continue to happen, but he was a fine wide receiver last year. I think for fantasy purposes, having a better quarterback, which I believe he has now in Indianapolis, will make him very fantasy relevant, I believe. He's the I'm going to say second best receiver there, but that doesn't mean anything to me. That can still be a very good receiver in a division that I don't really know how good the cornerbacks are anymore. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of the T.Y. Hilton signing, and I would take him as my wide receiver 3 and be very, very happy about it this year.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, he is the one who had, I want to say, his grandmother call him and really like pump him up to be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you got to whip it into shape there, Sonny." So, there's something to be said for that. But what is important to mention here is like to confirm what you were saying about the end of the year from week 12 through week 16, the critical part of the fantasy season, including the playoffs.
Mhm.
T.Y. Hilton was the wide receiver. Oh, I have it pulled up for standard scoring. Oh, gotta go to PPR. Oh, jeez. But okay, wide receiver 8 in PPR scoring from week 12 through the championship. You're right. When he finally got right, it made a tremendous difference. Now, the important thing to remember here is, well, and also just the important thing to remember in fantasy in general is when looking back at last year's stats and all that stuff, try to go to the game logs and try and put yourself in the shoes of somebody who was watching all that stuff at the time, remembering the strength of the opponents that they were facing, because that's super relevant with players like David Montgomery and his surge toward the end of the year, but it's also very important here with T.Y. Hilton because two of those games were against the Houston Texans. So there's an entire shaker of salt that you have to, pour onto this in order to, but he still did it, and they are going to play them twice again because they are in the
Mhm.
same division. So,
Yeah.
even with those little caveats thrown out there, when he got right, T.Y. Hilton was pretty good. So, I don't know, man. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm here
Yeah.
for it. I'm cautiously optimistic again because of age and
Mhm.
some injury stuff. I mean, God, I
Yeah.
don't think he's played more than. Yeah, I mean, he was very, very, very healthy and very good at playing through injuries for years.
Mhm.
And then 2019, only 10 games, which for
Mhm.
him, not great. And then even though he played 15 and started 15 games last year, he wasn't himself. It is what it is. He's a trooper. I'll give him that. But I don't know. There's some. There's
Mhm.
some going on. But felt like it was important to throw that out there. So I did. And now we're here. So get a load of
Yeah.
that, listeners. Ha ha!
Yeah. The Houston thing is very relevant too. I agree with that, but I think they might have gotten a little bit better at cornerback, but I don't think it matters. That defense is still really, really bad. They've lost, Watt, and I think that probably helped the secondary a lot more than any of the cornerbacks that they've added or lost, or is more relevant than anything else. So, and Whitney Merciless might be out of there too, right? At some point, we'll see. But anyway, yeah, I think he really turned on at the end of the year. I think he's a good receiver. He's only going to be 32 years old by he's born in November, the middle of November, so he'll be 32 in the middle of the season. So it's not super old. AJ Green just got a $10 million deal, and he's what, like 85 years old, right? And he'll still
Yeah,
see some time. So I
yeah.
think
He's got that AARP check coming in. He's got the Social
throw.
Security check coming in, and now he's got Arizona Cardinals paying him a little bit too. So shout out AJ Green for getting all the streams of incomes just left and right. I mean, like you're living it up. You're living your best life, my dude. Like,
Mm,
congrats.
yeah. So yeah, you don't have anything else to say about Hilton anymore. I can move on to the next one. Yeah.
Honestly, man, this is the one. So as excited as I was
Mhm.
about Gerald Everett, this last one is interesting because even though foreshadow, there's probably going to be somebody else involved there with this
Mhm.
player in this situation on this team. There could be a little bit of juice left to squeeze, maybe. So this is one where I'm a little puzzled, but I have an eyebrow raised. So
Yeah. Yeah.
teaser, boom! Look at that.
Yeah, teaser. This is for Mike Davis, 2 years, $5.5 million to your Atlanta Falcons. Mike Davis was insane last year. He was insane. I don't know if that was. I don't know how I could be more hyperbolic, but he was really, really good as a runner last year. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why he was so bad. with Chicago for a little bit of times, and I guess Seattle before that. I don't know where this came from, but he was great on film. I really believe in the talent there. People, I just I don't know why people were like saying like, oh, it's not a big deal, whatever. They're bringing someone else. He was just a fill in for McCaffrey, all that. I don't care. But dude, he was good on film last year, and I really think he'll be. If they don't bring in anyone, even if they bring in someone, I don't care. Mike Davis was good last year, and I think he'll be insanely fantasy relevant this year. And if you're sleeping on him, you're making a mistake. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, Atlanta feels like a team, probably not with the first pick that they have at number 4,
Yeah,
but
no,
probably with their second round pick, I could definitely see them bringing in a running back. It would make a lot of sense. Logic would dictate that that is something that they do, but you're right. The disrespect that was kind of thrown Davis's way at times, 'cause in fairness, between the tackles, not not that great, but out in space a little bit in the receiving game, that's where his bread is buttered. And even though new head coach and presumably offensive coordinator Arthur Smith coming over from Tennessee, it's not really what they do. But I mean, hey, whoever the RB1 is for the Atlanta Falcons, if it is him, cool. If not, then that brings him into like the Tony Pollard, Alexander Madison discussion of just like, hey, well, if something happens to the dude ahead of them, we feel confident that this player could walk in and do very well. You know why I think that? He just fucking did it. So, like, I mean,
sure.
hey, like, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. There's a lot of different ways this can go. It'll be more interesting for us to discuss this in approximately 4.5 weeks. But
Sure.
until then, keep your eyes peeled out there, folks. I mean, like there could be
Mhm.
there could be something here. I'm here for it. Like,
Mhm.
just
Yeah, they'll probably use draft capital. I totally agree with that. I don't know when they'll use draft capital on them because I think they have a lot of defensive holes that they need to fill in Atlanta. I think that's what they'll be hitting pretty hard on the draft. I honestly wouldn't even be surprised if Atlanta went every single pick defense this time, but they probably will add a running back. I don't know how that much they feel about. Well, they lost Gurley, and they also lost the other running back that was there, I believe, too. So I'm not sure how much
yeah,
the depth looks like there. What's his name? Do you remember? Sorry,
Ito Smith.
Ito Smith. Ito Smith, that's it, right. They lost Ito Smith too. So, I mean, they'll probably bring in someone they probably have to at this point, but I still even think if they bring in a rookie, I'm not sure how much time they'll take away from Mike Davis, or I'm not sure how much time Mike Davis will take away from them, but he's a really talented receiver. I mean, they've got a great offense otherwise. They still have a very good quarterback. This guy was an MVP, like, what, like 6 years ago or 5 years ago? And he's played very good
Not that
quarterback.
long ago, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. He's still a really good quarterback, Matt Ryan. I mean, there's a reason why they are keeping him on the team with the offense they have. There's a reason they're keeping Julio. They have a very good offense. 100% say that. Defense is another thing, but yeah, I really believe in Mike Davis. I think people are sleeping on him, especially when the news came out. I remember seeing on Twitter, or maybe it's just my Twitter space, but I saw people being down on it. I love it. I'm going to draft Mike Davis anywhere I can. I already have him in Dynasty. I'm excited.
There you go, dude. Ah, man, see, hell yeah, dude. And something we kind of touched on last week that I feel like is important to bring up again. Like, you don't have to be a stud to be of interest when it comes to fantasy. You have to have like having appropriate perspective of what a player's value is or whatever, and understanding that just because something isn't elite value doesn't mean that the player is bad or useless or whatever. Because it's like, yeah, all this shit matters.
Mhm.
All of this shit matters. So even if you're only operating with the dudes like, yeah, we don't think he's gonna, reach Alvin Kamara esque levels of dominance, but that doesn't mean that he's not
True.
relevant. That doesn't mean that he's not important. It's very
Mhm.
important to discuss these dudes, and that's what we are here for to do on the show with no name. Boom, transition into the next topic. Hell, check it out. Look at me. I'm so good at this. Winners and losers from free agency. So there have been some articles published over on our website, www.thelateralff.com. The homie McLateral came out with the losers, and I came out with my piece about the winners. So, in keeping with what I just said, here are some winners. I'm going to start off with the first thing that I have on my list. Jacksonville. Jacksonville, I think, as a team. And I know this one is something you're going to be very happy to talk about. When we were looking at what could possibly happen this offseason, it was very apparent somebody was going to come in and ease the workload of 2020 undrafted free agent rookie James Robinson, beloved James Robinson in fantasy football last year. Wonderful guy. If you didn't draft him, you picked him up after week 1 and boom, to the moon. Yeah, that really paid off.
Yep.
And some people were worried about, like, oh, well, if they bring in a guy who's good enough, whether, free agency through the draft, then, it's just going to, completely tank his value. And what's going to happen? Boom! Enter Carlos Hyde, who I think is great for what they needed. But in terms of fantasy, oh, yes, it saved the life of James Robinson for redraft. Oh, my Lord. High-end RB2 I am very comfortable with. Totally stoked about James Robinson for 2021. And also a little under-the-radar thing that was talked about last night on the Lateral Weekly Variety Hour hosted by our pal McLateral, also published on Spotify. So if you're following this and you're seeing this in your, podcast feed, go back to the last episode, check it out. It was a great interview with some good friends. Totally good time. Marvin Jones coming in. It complicates things in terms of, like, if you're a big fan of Laviska Shenault, maybe you're starting to get a little nervous. People who are still on the DJ Chark thing, maybe they're starting to get a little nervous. But I don't know. There's a whole mess of things at receiver right there that I want to get your opinion about. But ultimately, to wrap up my take, Trevor Lawrence is coming to town, baby. And they've got some pieces. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Jacksonville, it's still going to be a couple years. But next year, it's going to be a noticeable increase in skill level and quality of product and all that. I'm here for it, dude. I'm really, really interested. And I have no vested interest in this as you do. So I'm going to hand it over to you, resident Jaguars fan. What's up, my dude?
Yeah, they made a lot of moves the offseason. I think they're winners. You're absolutely right. James Robinson, also a pretty huge winner. They brought in former Jaguar, Carlos Hyde, if you can remember, I think 2017, 2018. I want to say 2018.
Yeah.
He was on the team. So,
No, because
bringing him back.
because he got traded from Cleveland, and that's when it was like Nick Chubb season. Oh, I remember I got the alert
True.
at work. I was the first person to go in, pick him up. Oh my god, the memories! Shout out. Oh, yeah, I had to throw that out there. But
Oh, yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, no, yeah. I love James Robinson film. He reminds me of a young Maurice Jones-Drew. He's small, he's big, he breaks tackles. He runs over guys. I love it. His film didn't look as great towards the end of the season as it did the beginning of the season. I blame that a little bit on the fatigue of being on a 1-15 team and no one really giving a fuck when you're, week 16, week 17. But he had great film otherwise besides the end of the year, really, when it's trending like that way. He won't get as many carries, that's for sure, as he got last year. He had a ridiculous share. I think that's a totally reasonable thing to talk about. Totally fair. But he's a really good player. He can catch the ball. The Jaguars, for whatever reason, even between coaches, love to use the running backs in the passing game. Lenny had 100 targets the year before, and I think Robinson had 70 or 65 last year. I'm gonna look that up real quick. But they get involved in the passing game. Even he got involved so much in the passing game, and what did he have? Yeah, he had 60 targets, and they had what's his name, Chris Thompson, on the team with Jay Gruden, and he got 60 targets on there. That's got to say something, right? People don't bring that up nearly as much as they should, but that's got to say something, right? So I think that's he's an RB1 for me. He's a top 12 RB for me. He might be at the end of the top 12, but he's I'm fine with him. He's my RB1. I'm very happy to have him. He's good. The Jaguars' offensive line is actually good. I think people underrate the offensive line. Not gonna lie. If they don't trade Norwell, and I don't think they are, keeping a guy like him is fine. They'll probably beef up the offensive line in the second round too. So I think he's got a fine place to run behind with Trevor Lawrence. Having a bigger arm than the combination of Luton, Glennon, and Gardner Minshew all together. I think that'll stretch the field a little bit and allow Robinson to have a better opportunity to be, a better running back, honestly, a better fantasy option.
Yeah.
And he also only played 14 games last season. So, if you play the full 16, he would have even more ridiculous numbers. So, but also to answer your question about Marvin Jones, or to actually talk about Marvin Jones a little bit, I was a little perplexed at the signing to sign a 31-year-old wide receiver on a rebuilding team for 2 years. Thought it was kind of weird for the Jaguars, but he's a good receiver. He's always been a good receiver. He's going to have a pretty good quarterback, I think, maybe. So being fantasy relevant, I don't know how relevant. I would say probably as relevant as he's been in the past few years. I'm not sure if there's much of a change in his fantasy value.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
It's just that someone between the two of DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault has to be affected by this because there's no way they would have signed him to that deal without some intention of having some role for him. So, and
Yeah.
it's been a thing trying to figure out who does this hurt more. I really want to get your take on that.
Yeah, well, I think if he replaces Keelan Cole, because Keelan Cole's a Jet now, I think that's
Okay.
kind of the way it goes. Because Livishka's more of a slot guy. It seems like they want to use him like that, which makes sense. He gets like 2 or 3 runs every game. They like to use him in creative ways. I think that's the way they won't use Marvin Jones like that, obviously. So the two guys on the outside, Marvin Jones and DJ Chark. I think that's the way they'll go. So he's probably like a Keelan Cole replacement, but better than Keelan Cole. I think, even though Keelan Cole's fine, I don't hate him. They still have D.D. Westbrook, but he was a lot like he was a non-injury like scratch for a while. I wonder if there was some COVID stuff last year for him not being in there, but he's still on the roster. So I don't know. He's an outside receiver, so we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure how much it hurts either of those guys, but I think all their stocks are just completely raised because of the quarterback addition. So it's kind of how I feel, except
I
for Jones
got you.
because he was on a good situation last year.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Mm.
But yeah, so I don't know, Jacksonville, that about covers it. This one I will keep brief because it was discussed at length last show. But the Washington football team, as a whole, clear winners on offense. Ryan Fitzpatrick coming into play quarterback, Curtis Samuel coming into the fold, reuniting with the coaching staff he had in Carolina prior to like Matt Rule doing all that shit, unlocking him and figuring out all that stuff. But I did want to just sprinkle in something that I had written for the article that is also information that has appeared in other publications that is like more detailed and articulate than how I'm going to word it. But I'm going to play a fun game of what do these people have in common? And you are going to probably intuit what the answer is very quickly. But what do Devontae Parker in 2019, who finished as the wide receiver 11 in PPR, Brandon Marshall, who finished as the wide receiver 3 in PPR in 2015, and Stevie Johnson, who was the wide receiver 10 in PPR in 2010, all have in common? Jesse!
Oh, I have no idea.
Ryan Fitzpatrick was their
Okay.
quarterback.
Oh God,
Oh,
he's like
hey!
39 years old. He's playing on like every single team.
Yeah. And the data bears out that this dude locks on to a guy, feeds
Sure,
that
that's
dude,
fair.
and just doesn't give a fuck. So Terry McLaurin, wheels up. Let's go. I'm here for the oh my I cannot imagine a scenario in which Ryan Fitzpatrick starts at least, like 9, 10, 11, 12 games and Terry McLaurin stays healthy, that he does not finish as a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I don't see how it couldn't happen. I really don't. I at this point, like, I am very, very invested in what the potential is for Terry McLaurin because he already had a buttload of targets last year coming from ineffective quarterbacks who all of whom combined for I think right around 600 passing attempts. They weren't afraid to throw the ball regardless of who was under center. And now they're bringing in the don't give a fuck gunslinging motherfucker of all time to do that shit. So,
Let's go.
if we could, turn it up to 11 for Terry McLaurin and get him around like 140, 150 targets, I mean, like, whoo, baby. I mean, we're cooking with gas at that point. So, man, I had to throw that out there because everything that was said last week was already said. No need to go any further. But that fun fact, that's a pretty key fun fact when looking forward at next year. So, just yeah, you got to tell the public what they need to know, and that's what we're here for. So,
True. Do you think Fitzpatrick will start all 16 games for the football team?
oh, geez, well, got to put my DC area native hat on. It really depends on. The football team would have to move up, presumably, to acquire a quarterback because I think.
Well, I mean, Heineke they signed for a 2-year deal, right? He would be
Yeah,
possibly. I'm just thinking out loud.
I think they're going to report it as if it's a competition in camp, but there's no way it's actually going to be. I feel pretty confident that Ryan Fitzpatrick will open the year as the starter, and unless some unforeseen horrific bullshit takes place, I don't know that they really want to throw Heineke out there, but if it got bad enough, they would. So I think that all hinges on whether or not they draft somebody. Because, like you said earlier, bringing up a name from before, I don't think Kyle Trask is going to be a first-round pick. I think second or third round capital is more likely, and if for some reason
Mhm.
Trask fell to them, I could see a scenario in which the football team might be interested there. If for some goddamn reason Mac Jones was around for them, they
Hmm.
would, hit smash on that in a heartbeat.
Hmm.
But outside of that, there's really no way that I can see something threatening him for this year. They're going to have to address the position long term at some point, but probably more likely 2022. So, at least from my perspective, having grown up around the team and seeing all the hoopla and whatnot, he's got a good shot at keeping this to himself. So that's
Cool.
that's
Yeah.
that's that's where I'm at,
Hmm.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I can only speak as I live like less than an hour from the stadium. I mean,
True.
I hear DC sports talk radio a lot, so yeah, and I don't know, but so that's its own thing. Whatever.
Hmm.
The another winner that I had was Daniel Jones, because the presence of Kenny Galladay and the presence of Kenny Galladay alone,
Hmm.
he hasn't been in the league that long, and by he I mean Daniel Jones, but in his time, the one thing he really hasn't had is like a big dominant presence of somebody that he can just rely on to just do the thing and just zip it to and all that shit. And hey, check it out. Now he has that guy. And also, low key, can't forget John Ross, former, what, sixth, seventh overall pick of the Bengals, however, because he
Yeah.
ran
Something
that
like that.
obscenely
Hmm.
fast 40 time, and it
Was it
was
like
like,
four
aha,
two,
that
right?
guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 So, and I think that
Surprised Al
was one.
Davis didn't rise out of the grave and just steal him like away. Surprised he just like didn't happen. I was seriously surprised. God, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, if The Walking Dead has taught us anything, is
True.
that no, but yeah, I think well, at least for fantasy purposes, John Ross, I'm not sure there's any relevance there, but real life football could make a big impact on special teams. That is going to be pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So for all you
Yeah.
DST people out there, I don't know, keep that in mind. They were already a
Mm-hmm.
very good defense in fantasy last year, so you get those special teams touchdown points in
True.
fantasy scoring and stuff. So it's like, fucking, I don't know. That's something to consider. So I had to tie it in as best I could. But yeah, as I stated in the article that I wrote for the Lateral about this, I am not about to do the same fucking thing a lot of people did for Drew Lock last year, being like, I know it's bad most of the time, but every now and then he's okay. And look at the weapons, I think he can do it. Never mind the fact that most of the time Daniel Jones isn't very good. So like, I'm not gonna plant my flag in there and be like, haha, sleeper central. Like, I'm still open to the possibility that he's decent. You know what I mean? Like, okay, comparing him to Drew Lock might have been a little aggressive because I mean, Drew
Yeah,
Lock.
Drew Lock sucks. This is a Drew
But
Lock is bad household.
oh yeah, no, the Lateral.
Yeah.
If there's one
Yeah.
thing I mean, like, and hey, relative to his peers, terrible. In
Mhm.
general, very, very fine athlete. He is a professional after all.
Oh yeah, of course.
but,
Right, yeah,
but
yeah, for
either way,
sure.
and I always gotta slide in that caveat.
I,
But
I do too. I feel like I do too because I feel like I shit on these professional athletes, but they're just so much better at like everything than me. But like we're just
yeah,
shit
no,
talking on the internet. Yeah,
always
yeah.
important. But I don't
Mm.
know. I guess to tie it back, like, yeah, I'm not about to lose my fucking mind and be like, yeah, Daniel Jones, wheels up, because like I don't fucking know yet. We still have to see what they do in the draft. It is what it is. But like, regardless, it's important to state the obvious. If you get a guy coming onto your team like Kenny Galladay and you're playing quarterback, you're a fucking winner. So, boom. There's
Mhm.
the take from Herms. What you
Yeah.
got on that subject? But especially more, I get because we didn't really get a chance to talk about the Kenny Galladay signing because that was breaking toward the end of our recording. So
Yeah,
this will be the
yeah.
first time we really get to address that. So,
Mhm.
woohoo.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Daniel Jones was a winner from getting a serious number one, and he is a serious number one. He was an A grade for me. They gave whatever money they gave him. I think it was like 4 years, 72 million, like 30 something million guaranteed. It's worth it. Kenny Galladay's great. He's had a PFF grade of at least 80. I think one of the years was 79.9, but he's had at least a grade of 80 for the past like 3 years. He's a great receiver. He's always been a very good receiver. He had a better quarterback in Detroit. That's obvious, but he's very good. I don't know what else to say. I think most people are on that board. If you don't believe me, just watch some of his film from 2019. He's a really good receiver, and you're right. They never had a big body guy. They do have who I think is a pretty promising rookie. I was really excited for Sterling Shepard, but whatever injuries and all that stuff, it is what it is. No what's his name? Also from Detroit from before. What's it? Golden Tate. No longer Golden Tate's
Yeah.
there, right? He's no longer on the team. But I like the rookie from last year or 2 years ago. Forgetting now. Was it
Slayton?
Slayton? Was Slayton last year rookie?
No,
I
I think it
forget.
was the year before, but either
Yeah,
way.
whatever.
I don't know.
That combination of
Time is a
players
weird
though.
thing.
Yeah, that combination of players is if Daniel Jones is going to do something in his third year, it's got to be now. His third year, right? It's got to be now. He's got enough receivers, no complaints, and they Giants might even acquire someone at 11. I think they if Slater's there, they might take him, and I think he might be there, but we'll see. If they get someone like Pitts, which I think honestly, if Pitts goes to any team, hence the Giants, that would be the only team that could ruin him.
Look, I all kidding aside, let's be honest. I mean, the Giants are a great place for tight end because they have Pro Bowler Evan Ingram. Thank you.
True, Pro Bowler.
2020
True,
Pro Bowler.
true. Well,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
since
never gonna
yeah,
get old. It's never gonna get old.
it's pretty
Oh
embarrassing for the Pro Bowl
God.
process. Honestly, it's pretty
Oh
embarrassing.
dear
Um,
God. How the fuck? I still that whole different
yeah.
rabbit hole. But
I mean, I think the answer literally why is the Pro Bowl is because there's more people in New York than there are people in other places. That's the only reason why. So
that'll do it.
that's the only
That'll do
reason.
it.
That'll do it. But yeah, I mean,
There
he's
you
a
have
winner.
it,
I think
folks.
for obvious reasons. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, should I go into my winners?
Go for it.
All right, I'm gonna hit these up. We can do these pretty quick too, because we've talked a lot about this before. But I think an obvious winner, and I think it'd be hard pressed for anyone to disagree with this, but the Buccaneers are a pretty easy winner. They resigned everyone they need to, and they won a championship last year. The secondary is getting a little bit older, which is great. Sucks that guys like Donovan Smith and guys like Levante David are getting older, but I mean they're bringing back the band. I don't know how you could see there's anything other than a winner, and it's pretty easy to say, right?
Yeah, because I mean, like I've made this joke on. I can't remember what show it was, but it was like when Tom Brady came to town, he decided to call up everybody that he knew and turn the Buccaneers into his version of like the football, you know, Toon Squad, just doing the whole Space Jam thing,
Doing squad.
and just like just be like, hey man, gotta bring in all these people and just put together a super team. Fuck it, and like, hey, it paid off, and they're gonna run it back. So I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
it hurts my undying love of Ronald Jones now that Leonard Fournette has returned, but that is a
Yeah.
different story for a different day,
Mhm.
and I'm not ready to talk about it. I'm not ready.
I get it. Lenny, he's fine. He's like one of the worst vision that I've ever seen in a running back. That guy runs into more offensive linemen than I've seen any other person do it. But he's a bruiser. He's a serious bruiser. Like he'll run into those linemen, but he'll bully them over because he's a monster. But
Oh
yeah, I
yeah.
mean he's awkward and not better than Christian McCaffrey. Just remember he was taken before him. Super disappointing about the Jaguars, but that is a conversation for another time. Um, but yeah, we can move on to my next winner, who is the Jets. The Jets might have a scary defensive line next year. Let's be real. They signed Vinny Curry, they got Sheldon Rankins, and they signed the best defensive end in the class, not close in the free agent class, not close. Carl Lawson. They also have Quinn Williams, who is coming into his own very swimmingly. He had a kind of down rookie year. Last year he was very good, but this defensive line is going to be kind of scary for the Jets. And besides all the bringing the defensive line they brought in, they bring in Draw Davis, who I like, and they sign Corey Davis, who I'm a huge fan of. And now that it seems even more likely that they are going to draft Zach Wilson, I love, love, love Corey Davis for this. He can even be the wide receiver too. You can say anything you want. He's got a quarterback that is going to throw pinpoint accuracy to big guys who can go up and catch the ball, and Corey Davis is perfect for that. And I'm so excited for him in fantasy. I'm going to try and get him anywhere I can. Get my guys. Corey Davis is going to be one of my guys. Big fan of the offseason. Huge fan of Corey Davis and Zach Wilson.
Hell yeah, my dude. And I'm really glad that you mentioned the defensive players because, again, like, this is a redraft fantasy focused thing. But if I recall, CJ Mosley will be coming back as somebody
Mm-hmm.
who opted out due to COVID. There was a time in which the Jets DST was a decent streaming option for a while there. And with Robert Saleh coming over from San Francisco, like they're very, they're probably going to switch up the scheme, do all that, and they will have players returning who had opted out. And like you said, they've invested a lot in the defense. Maybe not right away this year, but they could be a DST on the streaming radar as things go along, if and only if it clicks by maybe like week 4, week 5, and it's like readily apparent. But keep that in the back of your head. I'm really glad that you brought that up. So listeners, I mean, like, yeah, we're not saying right here, right now, oh, Jets top 10 DST. Like, fuck no. Oh, no. Do not hear what we are not saying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's important to consider. And as far as Corey Davis goes, I mean, we touched on it last week. I mean, dude, that's a dude. Him and Mims,
Yeah.
buddy. I mean, oh,
Mm,
to the moon, especially if it is Zach Wilson, because we were
yeah.
operating under the assumption that it could be Darnold last we talked. Now that we kind of have a clearer picture, I mean, if the pick pans out,
Mm,
they could be pretty good. So I
yep.
don't know, man. Maybe the Jets are starting to turn a corner and not be completely incompetent. I mean, I don't want to get the hopes up of lateral writer Zachy NFL by any means,
True.
but just hey, man, I gotta throw that out there.
Mhm.
Just saying.
Yeah, going to be a tough division for sure. That AFC East, man, it's going to be scary, I think, going forward. I really do. I think they're going to be a great stream. I'm going to stream them against the Patriots when they play them twice a year for sure because hey, Cam Newton. So, yeah, but yeah, I mean that was one of my winners. Defense, you're absolutely right. They can be good. I like Marcus Maine too. He's pretty good. Bryce Hall, who was a fifth round pick last year, for some reason he had like a second round grade for me. So if he steps up and plays better at cornerback, I'm going to be very, very excited for that team. I think the defense is going to be good, man. I don't want to get Jets fans
Yeah,
hoped up either, but I think the defense could actually be very good. The next one I had, if I can pull up the things, I have a billion things, but is the Browns. Yeah, I've got the Browns open. I guess this is a really defensive focused winners that I've picked here, but John Johnson, Tack McKinley is fine, whatever. But John Johnson, we talked about signing Rashawn Higgins, signing Troy Hill, signing Malik Jackson. These are really, really targeted improvements to that defense that I think are going to be such an improvement on that team. They're already so balanced already. They have a good offense, they've got a good running game, a really good offensive line, pretty good quarterback, two good receivers, and they've got an above average to maybe even good defense. This team is scary, and this defense is very good. I'm not sure how much to add there, but if you watch the Rams defense last year, if you watch Troy Hill play, if you watch John Johnson play, you know these guys are good. And they might be, a little bit one-year wonders, but I don't believe that's the case. They played too well for that, especially well, what's his name? Not Johnson. The other guy that I just mentioned, I'm totally blanking on his name. Troy Hill in the slot is great,
yeah.
and that is such an important position to play with now. I just, I don't think people are counting that in enough and how good of a deal it was personally. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude, and kind of like we were saying before about the Jets, although granted a much better version of it.
Mm-hmm.
The Cleveland DST finished at DST 15 last year, and there were times where they were talked about over and over as a viable streaming option that you could pick up and do a lot of shit with. And they popped off in really good matchups and, bolstering what was already a very solid defense. I mean, hey, I feel like DST talk isn't something that comes up super often, but a lot of people still play in leagues in which DST is very important. So the Cleveland Browns are another one of those like you could pick them. I mean, I've no semblance of a clue what the schedule is like, so I don't know who their week one opponent is. I mean, I'm so far removed from even looking at shit like that. And I know that the popular strategy is just like, well, pick a defense with a good week one matchup and then figure out the streaming shit from there. Whatever. But all of that to say, the improvements that we've seen the Browns make, that could be a formidable like top 12 fantasy defense. So I mean, like that's
Mm-hmm.
something that
Mm-hmm.
is pretty awesome. And then yeah, as far as the offense stuff goes, we touched on that earlier. I mean, like hey, and also Nick Chubb really underappreciated. I feel like I just wanted to throw that out there because I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
yes, he's still thought of very highly. I think we need to think of him even more highly because
True.
I've been looking into some of the underlying numbers for that dude and just the yards that he creates on his own by just being the massive behemoth of a man and an athlete that he is.
Yeah.
Holy shit! So just I don't know. That's really all I have to say about that. But
Mm.
yeah, man, dude, Cleveland. I mean, as a Steelers fan, this makes
I
me
know. I
sad.
was gonna waiting for that.
But
Wait for the Cleveland,
like,
the Steelers thing coming out.
yeah, it always happens. It had to come up eventually. But yeah, I don't know. They're kind of just like the little brother that always wanted to belong in the division, but it's just like, oh, how cute of you. You have a football team. But, hey, I'm objectively speaking, I mean, like, I've seen a couple Super Bowls in my lifetime. I don't give a fuck. For the city of Cleveland, I would love to see them do well. I honestly and sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I'm cool with it. I
Oh,
really am. Like, good for them.
wow. That's nice to hear. Because if I was in your situation, I'd just tell them to fuck off and die. But
Yeah,
it's different opinions.
I wasn't even mad about the playoff game. I really wasn't. I was not mad. I was like,
Yeah,
good for you,
that was
good for you.
that was a crazy game. But yeah,
Oh
I guess this
Lord.
is the defensive focus offseason stuff because my next one is the Broncos and their defense. They kept it together, and just in case people forget, they're getting back Von Miller. Von Miller and Chubb might still be one of the better defensive end, whatever blitzing guys on the edge that are in the league. They signed Ronald Darby, they signed Justin Simmons to a long term deal, and they got Kyle Fuller. They re-signed Kareem Jackson. This this defense is insane. This team is really good. Minus the quarterback. We've already expressed our distrust or distaste for Drew Lock. I mean, they're getting Cortland Sutton back. Cortland Sutton
Oh yeah.
back too. So there's a lot of good stuff going on for Denver. They've done everything right except not draft the correct quarterback. So yeah, that's how I
As
feel, man.
as they are known to do. That is the one deficiency that they have above anything else. But yeah, man, I don't know. Like they have a lot of encouraging things working for them, and how about this? Hypothetical. I was talking to a buddy of mine out in Denver recently, and some of the rumors around the fact that Jacksonville might be
Yeah,
interested
yeah.
in moving on from
I've
Gardner
heard it.
Minshew.
I've heard it.
Now, granted, this has absolutely no tangible value to anybody who's watching or will eventually be listening to this, but hypothetically, I think that would be pretty dope. Just wanted to say it because I think it's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
So,
better than Drew Lock. Yeah, I think they should do that in a heartbeat. If they can, if they can finesse the Jaguars for a fifth round pick, I think they might do that. I think that would be a great deal for them for sure. And any way
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
upgrade. Alex Smith still out there? Is he still playing football? I'm not sure, but man, sign him instead. Do something, please. You've got a window right now. I mean, they'll probably have a window down the road too, but still, just yeah. Do you want to hit your losers next, or do you want me to go to my losers, or what do you want to do?
I got one big loser. I don't really even need to talk about the other ones just because this one is
Do it.
so particularly egregious that it's just like, holy fucking shit. The logic behind paying Kenyon Drake all of that money, which is not a shit ton of money, you know, from like the Raiders' perspective, and rumored that they also want to use him a little bit at receiver. Just like going through all the trouble of not only capping the upside of your former first round pick Josh Jacobs, but also like you drafted fucking Lynn Bowden to do the same thing you're about to ask Kenyon Drake to do, but you just were like you were too fed up to make it work. Like you solved that problem. Like, oh my god, I don't know. So like just from a fantasy
Hmm.
perspective, tying it together, Kenyon Drake signed a 2-year deal. I want to say it was for like $11 million or some
Yeah,
shit.
something like that.
This just whew, God, it was already getting tough to trust Josh Jacobs, especially because like his investment cost was always very high.
Hmm.
Now it's like, oh Lord, of
Hmm.
all the places that Kenyon Drake could have gone for the most part, like this had to have been one of the worst places. So as far as like the Raiders backfield goes, I will say though, this lowers Josh Jacobs like projected ADP to a point where I feel like it actually makes him more appealing to somebody like me, because I think it'll be like, okay, now he'll be priced more appropriately for the type of player that he's been, because like through no fault of his own, the system doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really support a player of his skill set necessarily, and he's always been kind of like TD or bust somewhat for the most part throughout his career so far. So if this prices him into like a middling RB2 that I can, you know, pick up as like my third running back on my team and just plug him in at the flex or whatever, like yeah, fuck it, I'm
Hmm.
here for it then. But
Hmm.
that is something like, he's a personal winner, speaking purely for Herms, because things I like to do strategically in my team building, this could be something interesting for me. But objectively speaking, yeah, the Raiders, big L, big L, and not the cool rapper,
Huge
not
L.
even the yeah, dude,
Yeah,
huge massive L, just oh
yeah,
my god,
absolutely.
terrible.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, another part that you didn't mention is they traded away like three starting offensive linemen. Like this is
oh
really
fuck yeah,
bad for the
that too.
Raiders.
Like
Yeah, like
they're completely just,
yikes.
that was
Hudson.
like,
Yeah, yikes.
yeah, good lord,
Yeah, not a
what are
good
they
situation to
doing?
be in. Yeah, really screwing over Derek Carr. I don't know what's happening, but it is what it is. So yeah, I can go into my things real quick because we've done this for a long time. An hour 20. We're pretty good there. So I'll just name them real quick. We can talk about them real quick. I've got losers: the Colts, the Falcons, and the Rams and the Saints. For very similar reasons for all these guys, not just the traditional reasons. The Colts didn't do enough. They just re-signed guys and they made the middling. I know they got Wentz, but whatever. The Falcons didn't do enough to change their team. They basically just said, "Oh, we're running it back the same thing we've done for the past 5 years," and it's never been successful except the one time we went to the Super Bowl. The Rams, they lost a lot of guys. Just haven't really. They signed Leonard Floyd for I think a little bit too much money. Although I like the player, but yeah, they lost too many players, didn't really add anyone new besides the quarterback, which, again, like the Colts, I get it, but I mean, ew, you got a bad cap situation. You're really not rolling in it. And the Saints finally, your Saints fans, you had a great run for a while, but it's over. Your quarterback is not good. Your team is hemorrhaging players. You paid guys way too much money for too long. And sorry, you guys are going to not be very good for a little bit. It's going to suck, but it is what it is. So those are my losers, real quick. I don't know if you want to talk about any of those in more depth, but they're what they are.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go in inverse order. The Saints, if for any reason Taysom Hill ends up being the starting quarterback, I will be interested in him for fantasy just because
Oh, yeah.
40 rushing yards is the same as a passing touchdown in a lot of people's leagues. So that's cool, but what does that also do? Oh, I love Alvin Kamara, but oh no, oh no, I don't want to live in that world where he gets hurt. But that could be wonky. I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out, but I mean, you're right. They've really backed themselves into a strange corner, and it's going to be interesting to see how they get themselves out of it. The Rams, Matty Stafford, oh my lord. I'm in on that dude as a solid QB1 target. I
Mm-hmm.
think he will do very well in that offense. I'm also low key a fan of the soon to be second year wide receiver Van Jefferson. We'll see how
Oh,
that
yes.
works out for them.
Oh,
I mean, like,
yes.
yeah, because Josh Reynolds signing with the Tennessee Titans also low key. Holy shit, that is something that could be super interesting. Like Josh Reynolds is going to be a big sleeper for me if the Titans don't address receiver in the draft. I'm throwing that out there now. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird jumble of continuity, but just like I mean, it's an upgrade over Jared Goff, but you know the difference. It like well, it's not like a negligible difference, but it's also not like a night and day thing to the point where I'm like flipping my shit over it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Falcons, like you've pretty much said everything that I would have to say about it. And then the Colts, yeah, it Wentz, it'll be interesting. I have no idea how to feel as of right now, but I think this will hurt Jonathan Taylor a little bit, strictly due to the fact that you're losing like one of the dump off kings of all time in Philip Rivers.
True.
So, I mean, that could be a little wonky, but yeah, as far as like the receiving game goes for like the actual like, you know, pass catchers, like yeah, a lot of running it back, bringing back T.Y. Hilton as we talked about at the beginning. Like, cool, I'm here for it. Whatever. Still don't really know what to make of Michael Pittman, to be honest. I mean, like there was a point in time where I was very, very invested, and then things got a little weird, and I'm not sure if it was Philip Rivers. I'm not sure if it was like Pittman specifically. I don't know. That's going to be really hard to figure out. But yeah, I mean, I get like, they're all the thing they all have in common as being on your list of losers, at least to me, is just like really uninspiring shit. Just like there are many ways that things could have gone for at least a couple of those teams, especially the Colts with the amount of money they had available to them. I was
Mm-hmm.
really hoping that it was going to be a more eye-popping offseason for them, and I wouldn't say shit the bed, but they paid
Mm-hmm.
a little.
No, I would say they shit the bed, dude. That was actually pretty good. I've never heard that before. That's nice. But no, they shit the bed. They're saving this money for, guys they have to resign in the next season. I get that. But this is the perfect year to sign mercenary guys for 1 year. They need to upgrade a cornerback. They brought back Xavier Rhodes, whatever. But the other guy on the other side, whoever it's going to be, Pierre Desir or whoever they have, is not good enough. They need to sign guys on 1 year deal and try and make a run this year. And they didn't do it, and they're just sitting on cap space. Why? Why? I don't get it.
I
It
don't
boggles my
know.
mind. It literally
I
boggles my
don't
mind. It's
know.
so dumb. I mean, I like this as a Jaguars fan, but they really fucked that up. They really did.
Oh yeah, no for sure. Like, God, man, because like some of the names that we had like rumored, to
Hmm.
go to the Colts, like it could have been so much more fun.
They lost
But
Autry. They could have upgraded the defensive line more. I assume they'll address that in the draft, but man, there's just no reason not to. It really blows my
I,
mind, man.
yeah, they, oh God, like I said, I mean, like you say they shit the bed. I think they just peed it a little bit. But either way, the sheets are not in good shape. So,
Yeah, true.
oh boy. So yeah, but oh god. Well, I mean, god, fuck it. Oh god. Yeah, now we have to end on a sour note now. Ah, shit. Okay.
I'm okay
Well,
with ending saying the Colts suck. I'm okay with ending with the Colts are trash. I'm fine with that. So whatever you want to do.
all right. Well, there we go. That's another edition of the show with no name in the books. Really solid time. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm so glad that we're doing this shit. Oh my god. Yeah.
Same man.
So,
Same
man,
man.
oh, tune in next week, everybody. We'll figure out the time and all that stuff for those of you who are interested in watching this live. For those of you who will be listening to this as a podcast, it really does not matter when we do this live because that's not your vibe anyway. As I said up top, I am Herms. You can find me on Twitter at HermsNFL. You can find the YouTube channel that this comes out on just by going to our website, www.thelateralff.com. There's a link to it. Same thing with the Spotify page for all this stuff. Just like subscribe, do all that shit, keep up to date with what we're doing. Follow us on Twitter at thelateralff. That's all I got to plug. So, Jesse, say what you got to do. Anything fun coming up soon for you, either here or with the Bacon Games fantasy sports stuff, sister network kind of type deal.
Yeah.
So, shout out.
Yeah. So, like I said, we do stuff at Lateral. Have a great time at the live show. It's a great time all the time. I love everyone at the Lateral. They're awesome. Malcolm, Zachy, those guys are great. Besides obviously Herms, but yeah, I mean, check me out. Big Games Fantasy Sports, BGF Sports on Twitter. Check me out. I do some stuff. I'm pretty cringe, but I have a good time doing it. So that is what it is.
Hell yeah, dude. It's all about the cringe, man. That's what I always say. I think that's what the youth is into. Obviously, I'm starting to become an old man at this point. I'm in my mid-20s. My ability to stay hip is waning, but how can I transition out of this in a way that would be appealing to the children? Peace out, my dudes. Yeah, was that good? I think that was.
I'm just holding for. Oh, oh. It's just me now? This is my show now, guys. Haha. Just kidding. I'm leaving.